Good morning, and thank you for joining us for this webinar entitled Using Digital Optimization to Increase Customer Loyalty. My name is Bill Bauman, and I'm Director of Expert Services here at Panorama Consulting Solutions. Obviously, you can see our website URL as well as our Twitter and Facebook connections. Now, the purpose of this webinar, what we hear and what we know to be the case is that digitally optimized organizations are using the intelligence that they're gaining to be able to better enable their employees to serve their customers as well as their suppliers. Now, the question is, how is this accomplishment and what measurements can you use to actually empirically measure your customer loyalty? The other issue is, what type of impact is this optimized technology having on the perception of organizations within the marketplace? So those are the things we're going to cover today. First, a little bit about Panorama. As far as methodology is concerned, you can see in the first box there, we obviously do a great deal of work with enterprise system strategy, digital transformation, as well as digital optimization. For those of you that I know there's a lot of confusion in the marketplace about those two terms. Digital transformation basically deals with creating new income streams from your digital changing or your optimization. Digital optimization means you're just basically getting more efficient and using your technology in better ways and to become more efficient. We also do a great deal of work with software evaluation and selection, as well as implementation, those two areas, as well as OCM, organizational change management, and business process management we've been doing for over 14 years in the marketplace. I also happen to work in the project recovery, as well as expert witness practice, as well as offering independent verification and validation for companies wishing to basically make sure they keep their projects on track. Also, we get involved in project management as a PMO. Moving on to specific industries we work in, manufacturing is one of the largest. That particularly due to the fact that ERP lends itself so well to manufacturing businesses. But we also do a great deal of work with distribution, professional service organizations, government and nonprofits. We have a group that works specifically in that area, as well as healthcare and medical supplies. You'll also see retail, energy. Frankly, I come from the oil and gas background as well as agriculture and food and beverage. Now, that's just a representation. There's probably 30 other industries that we've worked in the past. That'll give you a general idea of some of the areas that we have experience. As far as our people are concerned, we have consultants. Some are based here in Denver, where our headquarters is. A number of them are also distributed throughout the U.S. and actually throughout other countries. Of these consultants, they average over 20 years experience in their particular industries, as well as working with vendors and have that type of experience. A number of them are Lean Six Sigma certified, ProSci, work with Scrum, MBAs. All the project managers have PMPs, as well as Apex. And then all of our consultants go through our 360-degree ERP certification. Basically, so we're trying to make sure that everybody delivers our methodology the same way. And so if for some strange reason something happens and someone is physically unable to complete a project due to health or whatever it is, another consultant can come in and knows exactly what type of work they've done previously, what type of deliverables they have delivered, and what still needs to be delivered. So it's a way to make sure we're consistent with all of our methodology at each of our clients. Now, here's a representation of the type of clients we work with. I put that up there just a minute ago, but you can see there's energy clients up there, not-for-profits, retail, manufacturers certainly, there's car parts, entertainment, Again, this is just a general representation. There's certainly many more that we've served over the last, as I mentioned, 14 years. So there's literally hundreds of them. This China just gives you a interesting representation of some of the types of folks that we work with. As far as the actual developers of software, you can see the tier ones up there, the Oracle, SAPs, Microsoft, and Infors, as well as the tier twos, the NetSuites, Epicors, IQMS, and we also work with tier threes as well as some boutique types of software. Now, that's from the development side. So these are the people actually, obviously, providing the software or developing the software. We also deal with the actual system integrators. So it's very common, say for Microsoft in particular, to use system integrators to actually configure and implement their software. Very unusual, unless it's a very large client, that you'll see some of those clients or some of those developers actually do the implementation work. So again, we have relationships not only with the developers, but with the system integrators as well. Now, when I say relationship, that relationship is something where we're familiar with them, we work with them, we know which ones are good, which ones do a great job, and unfortunately some that don't do such a great job. But we don't have any type of financial relationship with them. That is a little bit unique, that we're truly agnostic. So when we make a recommendation to a client on a particular piece of software or system integrator, it doesn't benefit us one way or another to basically who we recommend. So we're always looking to make sure we recommend the best fit for the type of business that is, because again, there's no financial remuneration to us as far as who gets picked or who gets picked to do implementation. Now, customer loyalty. Some of the things I look for what I think of when I think about customer loyalty are the customers look at your organization basically as a partner. They look at you from a much different view than if you're just a vendor providing services to them. They basically value your opinions. So customers feel that you have their best interest at heart. Again, you're not just another source of revenue to them. And also your people go out of their way to exceed the expectations of those customers. Now, as I mentioned before, in some cases, you may be giving advice to customers that they may or may not agree with. And if you're providing it in a helpful manner, they will listen to that. But again, you've got to earn that right, again, to be a partner and pass that kind of information along. As a vendor, they typically don't want to hear those types of comments. Customers are also willing to refer your organization to fellow employees or, colleagues. Now, we'll talk a little bit about that further on when we talk about how we measure customer loyalty. But again, it's kind of an acid test. If customers aren't willing to refer you, then you can bet that there's probably an issue with your relationship with that particular customer. As far as market perception, when I think of market perception and what's advantageous for a customer, or advantageous for your organization, how we appear in the industry, you look at the fact that vendors, competitors, and even potential candidates for your company envy the organization's position in the industry. Prospects actually feel good about the possibility of doing business with you. And your organization is often sought after by different partners because they're hoping that they're going to learn how to do business in a more efficient way as you do, and also the association between you and them is beneficial to them. One of the other telltale signs is you don't have to recruit for a lot of employees. They pretend to come to you. You'll get large amounts of unsolicited resumes, people just looking to work for your organization because they've heard about you and they know you have a good reputation. Now, over on the right, you see an interesting graphic that was from a particular client that we worked with. As you can see, the things that they wanted to make sure were in place to have through their digital transformation were that they were market driven, they were easy to do business with, obviously they had strong and loyal relationships, which is where that customer loyalty piece comes in. They had to maintain sustainable results, so obviously it doesn't do them any good to be a really great customer service organization if they're losing money or if they're not sustainable. And of course, that they had teamwork, that they said we do it together, so that the whole organization is pulling to create that type of perception in the marketplace. Customer touch points. Okay, every time there's an interaction with a customer or vendor anywhere within your organization, it's basically a customer touch point. Now, typically when people are asked, they say, well, where do customers work with you? Most common things named would be sales and probably your customer service groups. And those are both true. They both have significant impact upon your perception in the marketplace and, of course, customers and how they feel about you. But you've also got to look at the actual reality is that there are a number of other touch points that are in play on a daily basis, and I've named out a few here. Accounts payable, accounts receivable. As we know, accounts receivable people have a job to do, and that's collect money. And depending upon how they do that job will significantly impact how that customer or how that vendor feels about you. Purchasing, marketing, even quality control and quality assurance. All these groups are dealing with people on the outside on a regular basis, and every time there's an interaction, there's either we move the meter either up or down as far as that customer's perception of our organization or that vendor's perception. All the way down through shipping, IT, human resource, and even the receptionist. Again, most people are coming through the company or to the company from the phone perspective. That's the first person they're going to talk to, and they're going to form a lot of their impression about the company based on how they're dealt with. Again, not only by reception, but all those other areas. So just want you to keep in mind that customer touch points go way beyond just the traditional sales and customer service people. It really deals with anybody that deals with the customer. Even on an infrequent basis, they all have the ability to create positive or negative perception. Now, let's talk about digital optimization best practices. One of the first ones, as you can see up there, is personalization. We want to be able to customize the customer experience to the actual individual customer. So when we're dealing with them, we want to know things about them. We want to be able to look at their history. We want them to know that we feel they're important, because that's one of the most telling tales in terms of how people perceive us as far as being loyal or not, is do they feel that we know them and that they're important to us. Account management, they want to have visibility and the ability to update account information. Let's take something as simple as they've just moved and they're going to place a new order. Well, certainly we want to make sure that they have the correct address. If there's a new phone number, new shipping instructions, whatever it happens to be, the customers want the ability to go in and make those changes themselves before they place the order. And again, for us, it avoids having to go through our customer service center and tying up our agents. And again, the customer may want to do that in the middle of the night or for some reason at 4 in the morning when they get up. They have that ability. Direct digital touch, obviously that's digital interaction between customers and suppliers, something that really stands out these days in the world of service. Mobility, this is basically access to information on the device of choice and basically when customers want to do that. And that can be either through, I've just named out, computers, tablets, smartphones. I mean, the list goes on and on. It's about them being able to get access to information and be able to do things, again, in the channel and in the manner that they want to do that. All right, real-time reporting. This is the ability for customers basically to look at their data, and again, only where that data is appropriate. Obviously, there may be things in their records regarding problems we've had in the past, issues with late pay, things like that. We want to be able to look at certain types of information regarding their customer experience. So they might want to have access and look at the tracking of a particular order. Where is it in the process? When is it going to be available? When is it supposed to ship? Has it shipped already? All those types of things that they can see. And again, they want to see them real time. They don't want to look at things that are a day old, and they don't want to call people and hear that they can, they won't be able to get an update till tomorrow when the system's been updated. Process automation. This is the ability to transact business, obviously in an automated fashion. And again, things where we can place orders or, let's say, configure products. Configurators are one of the things I find most interesting, let's say for like a window and door manufacturer. Customer has the ability to get onto our website, put in color, size, type of glass, type of hardware, whatever it is, and they can get online quotes based upon how they've configured, whether it be windows, doors, whatever it happens to be. And if they don't like the price, or they want to try out a different color, or again, different size of glass, whatever it is, they can do that, and they can do that all themselves without having to go through a customer service agent. Again, this can also be, if they accept it, go right into order processing, and then right into our production flow as well, if that's what we've configured it to do. Security. I don't think I have to mention too much about this. Between all the hacks that have occurred, certainly in the retail world and even unfortunately in our government spaces, people want to know that their data is secure, it's safe, and it's not going to be hacked out by someone to use for nefarious purposes. Performance management. This is how we're going to manage our business, and we want to include our digital assets and how they contribute to the performance. Typically, we're going to do that through measuring things, key performance indicators. That's one of the best ways we can use to actually see how we're doing and look at trends in our business. Are we getting more efficient? Are we, doing things better, faster, cheaper? Whatever it happens to be, whatever the key goals are that we have for our business. Okay. Now let's look at the three components to a successful digital optimization. And again, we have to focus on all three of these things. And again, this won't be a mystery to most of you. It's people, process, and of course technology. Again, it's a three-legged stool though. We've got to make sure we focus on all three of those pieces. If we overemphasize any one or underemphasize any one, it's just like a stool. Without the legs being equal, it'll tip over. So we've got to pay the right or the same amount of attention on each of those groups or each of those areas in order to have a successful optimization. So let's take a look at the first one, which is people. One of the things we need to make sure of is that our people are well trained in the functionality of any of the types of technology systems that we employ, be it mobility in the warehouse, a CRM system up in sales, but whatever it happens to be, wherever we've got technology, warehouse management, human resource, whatever it is. We also want to make sure that our people work together as a team, not only within their own department, but also in the group upstream and the group downstream from them. It's important that they know what type of information is coming from where and what's going to happen to it once they get hold of it and it moves downstream to the next department. The other benefit of that is if we cross-train, if we need to do some fill-ins with a particular department, again, for some reason there's a shortage up in a group upstream or downstream, we can move some employees around to make sure that the efficiency of the workflow continues, even if we have, again, some type of a situation where we've got a shortage. Next, we need to make sure that every employee understands that they contribute to customer satisfaction. And that's regardless of their position and, again, the size of the types of transactions or interactions they have with customers. Again, it could just be your receptionist telling people your business hours. It could be someone out on the loading dock, basically telling a customer, sure, your shipment just went out. It's expected to be there within the next, whatever it is, 4 hours or 4 days, whatever it happens to be. But it's imperative that each of our employees understands every one of those opportunities can either create a positive perception of our company or a negative perception. Again, regardless of where they work. Okay, let's move on from the people side. We also need to make sure that our employees grasp that this digital optimization initiative actually increases their ability to assist customers with their issues. And again, everybody wants to do a good job, and they get frustrated when they don't have the tools to do that. Well, our digital optimization initiative is going to give them those abilities to see customer data, to be able to solve problems, and to make customers happy. And that's what most employees want to do. Now, when we're hiring employees, of course, we want to make sure that they express that type of attitude, and we can see they have the ability and the understanding of what it takes to exceed customer expectations. These are employees that are going to go the extra mile, find out what they need to do to resolve a customer's problem, and make that happen. Now, what we want to do is reward those people that do that, and unfortunately, there are going to be some that aren't. We're going to try to retrain them, but if they can't understand or they don't want to understand what that means and how important it is, we may have to deal with them, either redeploy them into a non-contact situation or in some cases something a little more drastic. Now, component 2 is process. As you know, optimization includes improvement of cumbersome and inefficient processes. That's one of the big things that we need to look at is how we do what we do. Why do we do what we do? Is it just because we've always done it that way and 25 years ago someone started doing that and we've continued to do that? Or are there reasons for the things we do? And can we eliminate some of the bottlenecks and inefficiencies by doing process improvement? Now, one of the things that people ask us a lot in our Panorama boot camps is when process improvement should be done. Is it something we should do prior to implementation of new technology or post? Now, our almost categoric response is it should be done early, because a lot of process changes aren't dependent upon technology. So you can change processes and you can immediately or almost immediately impact customer satisfaction and loyalty by the fact you become more efficient, and it doesn't have to be dependent upon the systems. The other thing that happens is when you create process changes, you may create different requirements for the technology that you're looking at. So if you make those process changes after you've implemented your technology, whatever it is, you may find that it no longer fits or the requirements are no longer the same because you've changed process. And now you may be talking customizations, which typically are not only expensive, but also create problems down the road with upgrades. Every time you make customizations, you need to know that you're going to be impacted by that down the road again when you do upgrades to your basic systems or your core systems. Now, the other thing process changes do is they can alter job descriptions and thus skill sets for particular employees. That's not something a lot of people like. This creates employee angst, and that creates a need for organizational change management, which the two big things generally with an organizational change are going to be communication, making sure people understand why we're putting in these new processes, why we're putting in new technologies, and basically making sure that people are trained so that they can do their job well, as we mentioned before in the people part of this presentation. Moving on with with process. Process requiring improvement should be identified and prioritized, and the way we prioritize them is by the level of impact and the level of resources required to make each of those changes. Now, there's kind of two schools of thought here, and as a consultant, I'm always going to use the word depends, and it really does, but this may mean that we're going to tackle the processes that have the greatest impact and create the greatest new efficiencies, creating faster order turnaround, whatever it happens to be, but they're going to have a large impact on our organization. Or in some cases, we're going to go after these low-hanging fruit that may have shorter design and quicker implementation times. It's going to depend upon what those changes are, how significant are the investments, not only in time and resources that we have to make in order to make them happen, And again, this is going to be dependent upon what the organization is and those types of changes. So it is unfortunately situation dependent. Our third component that we're dealing with optimization is obviously the technology. And digital optimization, unfortunately, you can focus too heavily on the technology piece. Again, I can think of a particular client where we were doing a selection and the IT group was basically the selection committee. Unfortunately, they didn't involve any of the other groups, accounting, sales, and frankly, no other group was involved in the selection process. When the recommendation was made to use a particular type of software, they did this in a town meeting, no one wanted to adopt that software. They all just said they reject it. Now, we know for a fact the software was the right pick because we were involved in the selection, but unfortunately they'd ignored our advice about including everyone and using communication via organizational change management to make sure everyone bought into the process and was included in the decision-making process. So again, if you treat especially a digital optimization as an IT project, it is not going to be successful. Now, one of the interesting things about technology that's out there now, and almost all systems will handle 80 to 90% of most requirements right off the shelf. That's a good news item. The other side of that is, though, that 10 to 20% is oftentimes the thing that makes or helps you differentiate your business. To borrow McDonald's claim, it's really the secret sauce. So again, that 10 to 20% can have a huge impact on customer loyalty. So if it requires customization of software to get that extra 10 to 20% that makes us different in the marketplace, it's money well spent and we need to do it. One of the other issues, again, when we come down to technology, is mobile customer support. Again, this is no longer, well, it'd be really nice if we had that, if customers could use their phones to get access or whatever it is. That's something that we just have to have today. So technology is an enabler, and again, it's another thing that has huge impact on customer loyalty. One other issue, system reliability, uptime. I'm sure all of us have had the experience where we've called into a customer service center and been told, well, the system's down, or gee, they're doing an upgrade, or my system's slow, or whatever it is. Frankly, when I hear that type of language, unless I don't have another vendor that I can look to for that type of product or service, I'm not calling back. One of the other ones more frustrating things is we call into the customer service center and we have to punch in a bunch of information via our phone. They send us to an agent, and of course someone asks for the exact same information over again. And then lo and behold, it's the wrong agent. We get sent to a second agent, and again, they ask us for all the same information again. Again, those things, we've got to have seamless data transfer so that we make sure that the customer doesn't have to do things that are frustrating. Again, they feel important, and again, all this information should be there in real time. We don't have to depend on things that happened yesterday, or we have to wait to find out information tomorrow. The other thing we've got to do is have a social media strategy that basically broadens how, when, and how often we're going to contact our customers or even our vendors. Again, this is all just giving customers and vendors better access, and we're communicating with them more often with relevant information that they find valuable, and social media can help us do that. Other things that technology can do, this is kind of a classic, you've probably all seen it from a customer TOUCHPOINTS perspective. You get an email or a text or something that basically tells you, hey, happy birthday, and here's a discount code attached. So maybe it's from my cigar shop, because frankly, no one else is going to give me a discount on my cigars. But anyway, they send me a happy birthday, come in, and here's whatever it is, 25, 50% off. Those are things that help me identify with that organization and say, hey, it's nice they do that. It's great they keep track of my birthday. Again, is that a big thing? No, it's not a big thing, but it all affects my perception of that organization. Okay, how are we going to ensure our customers are really happy with our service, other than just guessing or saying, hey, I think we're doing a better job than we used to because we have more customers than we had the year before? Well, one of the things we can do certainly is establish, and we talked about this before, establish key performance indicators for all our employees whenever possible. And again, when I say small number, I'm talking 3 to 4, not 15, not 20, a manageable number of KPIs for our employees, and then tie compensation to them whenever possible. Again, that may not be possible in all areas, but we want everyone to have KPIs so we can measure how they're doing. We want to be able to track their progress as we take a baseline when we first start the program, and as we look at what happens with the KPIs on a week, month-to-month, year-to-year basis, we see where particular employees are improving, departments are improving, or they're declining. And obviously, if there's declining in particular employees, we got to find out why. Now, that can also tie into the next bullet point, which is basically determining root cause analysis when we get complaints. We have to be able to go back and look through the causes of the complaints. They may be systemic. They may be process-oriented. They may just be a particular 1 or 2 employees that aren't on board with, customer satisfaction. But we got to go back and look through each complaint to make sure it doesn't happen again. And so we've got to be sticklers about that to make sure we do that with each complaint and track it down to its cause. Now, I've also seen many organizations use mystery shoppers basically to create scenarios to present to either, it could be customer service reps, it could be salesperson, again, it could be any of those employees that have a customer touch point. And basically we can set up scenarios and look at those and how they track to the KPIs that employee is being measured against. So again, mystery shoppers are a good way to do that. There's expense to them, obviously, but we can create scenarios that we can't always count on our customers coming to us with just because, of the fact that we don't control what they come and call us about. But in the mystery shopper case, we can. One of the things I really like, frankly, is a survey question. I'm sure each of you have been asked this before. At the end of an interaction, it's typically automated now. They ask how likely you'd be to refer us to a colleague. Obviously, if someone doesn't want to refer you, they've had a negative experience. And of course, you want to use, again, either an automated system or someone else, not the person that had the interaction with you, to do that rating. If you ask somebody, like I've seen at car dealers, hey, did I do a great job? Give me a great score. Well, great, you give them a great score, but it's not effective. It doesn't mean anything. Now, the last bullet point there is customer satisfaction surveys. There is certainly a place for them out in the marketplace, but 1, they are expensive, and 2, from a customer perspective, they can be seen as a bother. So what you want to do is you use them when they're absolutely necessary. There's just some things you need more information than a couple of quick questions, but again, I would say use them sparingly. And in most cases, I would say I would prefer not to see them used. Now, if anything that I've spoken about today gets your attention, you'd like some more information, or you just want to talk about it, you can talk with Laura Florence, our Director of Business Development. You can see her email address as well as phone number that you can contact her. Now, I'm going to take a couple of questions here. We have a couple of minutes left, and we'll see what we got coming in here. All right, here's one. Let's see. Is there a way to empirically quantify the would you refer us to a colleague question? Yeah, you can actually. One of the easiest ways is you basically, when you ask the question about would you refer us to a colleague, you ask them to rate you on a scale. So on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being no, you would absolutely never, and 10, yeah, you guys did a great job, I'd refer my grandmother to you. You can basically ask them to rank the interaction, and then you just divide it up, or add it, total them, and divide by the number of respondents, and then you're going to have an average score for that particular touch point. Now you want to do that for each of your touch point areas, and once again, track them over time and look for trends. Obviously, you hope you see an improvement, but if you're seeing a decline in a particular area, a particular touch point, you want to quickly do some research on there and see if there's a reason. And again, there could be a number of reasons. They're not all bad, but you've got to be able to determine why our customer score is going down in that particular area. Let's see, what else have we got here? How do you tell if a candidate has what you call the right attitude, customer service orientation? Well, I mean, I think one of the easiest ones to say is you test them for it. So in the hiring process, maybe you put together some scenarios and you ask for some kind of like an essay, a narrative, and say, okay, here's the particular situation, how would you handle it? And if you ask several of them, and you'll see patterns in terms of how people, there's certainly none of them going to say, I tell this customer to go away. They're all going to say they're going to try to solve the problem, but they may say some may be more creative or go to a higher level or extent than others, and that'll give you an added or a kind of a gauge on what that person's like. The other is to have some of your top department employees, again, suggest scenarios, and again, find out how they respond to them and then grade them. Again, I don't think that's too difficult a thing to determine, frankly. And the last one here I'm going to take, why do I care about how my vendors perceive me? They send me goods, I pay for them. Why does it matter? Well, in some ways, I'm sure there's a lot of people that feel that way. But really, the point about having a good relationship with a key vendor is there are going to be times you're going to need that vendor. Maybe somebody forgets to order materials at the proper time, and so you're ready to put an order together, and you're missing key components. Well, someone you've got a good relationship will maybe go out of their way and maybe shift some orders and get you your requirements faster than the standard turnaround time, or maybe you're a little cash tight, and maybe they'll let you extend terms a little bit more without paying interest, or they won't cut you off, or whatever it happens to be. And there's many reasons why having good relationships with vendors is beneficial, and all the things we just talked about, particularly the touch points, are ways to do that. So I thank you for your participation, for listening to us today. Again, if there's anything else you'd like to talk about, please contact Laura. And again, thank you for your time.